The retirement time bomb, how living longer is breaking the global economy. There's a number that governments around the world don't talk about nearly enough. It's not the national debt, it's not inflation, it's not even the deficit. It's a number of years the average person is expected to live beyond retirement age. And that number is rising faster than almost any pension system in the world was designed to handle. In 1950, a 65-year-old American man could expect to live, on average, about 13 more years. Today, that figure is closer to 18, and for women, it's over 20. South Korea and much of Western Europe, the numbers are even higher. On the surface, this sounds like unambiguous good news. People are healthier, living longer, enjoying more years with their families, but from a purely economic standpoint, this is one of the most structurally destabilizing trends of the 21st century, and it is quietly reshaping pension systems, sovereign balance sheets, and equity markets in ways most people don't fully appreciate. Today, we're going to look at exactly how. To understand why longer lives are so financially disruptive, you need to understand how pension systems were originally designed. In Japan, most public pension systems in the developed world were built on a model called pay-as-you-go, or pay-G. The idea is elegantly simple. The working population pays taxes, and those taxes are immediately redistributed to current retirees. There is no giant fund sitting in a vault. Today's workers are, in effect, paying for their parents' retirement, trusting that their own children will eventually do the same. This model works beautifully under one condition, that the ratio of workers to retirees remains stable or improves over time. When the U.S. Social Security system was introduced in 1935, there were roughly 40 active workers for every retiree. By 2000, that ratio had fallen to around 3.4 to 1. Today, it's approaching 2.7 to 1. And demographic projections suggest it could fall below 2 to 1 by mid-century. Longer lifespans are only part of the equation. Falling birth rates compound the problem, but longevity is the underappreciated variable because it affects the duration of the liability, not just its size. Every additional year that the average retiree lives is another year of pension payments the system must fund. If you design a system assuming people retire at 65 and live to 75, but they're now living to 85 or 90, the financial gap is not marginal. It is structural. And that's before we even get to the funded pension systems, the private occupational pensions and defined benefit schemes that make promises based on actuarial assumptions that are now quietly, systematically failing. For much of the 20th century, the gold standard of retirement provision was a defined benefit pension. Your employer, or the state, promised to pay you a fixed income for the rest of your life, usually indexed to inflation. The risk sat with the institution, not the individual. These schemes were modeled on life expectancy data that is now decades out of date. When a pension fund calculates how much money it needs today to meet future obligations, it uses a discount rate, essentially an assumed rate of return on its investments. If it assumes 7% annual returns but only achieves 4%, the gap has to be funded from somewhere. If it assumes retirees will live to 80 but they live to 87, that is 7 additional years of payments that were never provisioned. The result is what actuaries call the pension funding gap, and it is enormous. In the United States alone, state and local government pension funds were estimated to carry unfunded liabilities of anywhere between $1 and $5 trillion, depending on the discount rate assumptions used. The United Kingdom's public sector pension liability has been estimated at over £2 trillion. These are obligations that already exist. They are not hypothetical risks. They are promises already made to people who are already retired or close to it. The response from most private sector employers has been to exit defined benefit schemes entirely, shifting workers into defined contribution plans, essentially investment accounts where the risk is transferred back to the individual. This protects the employer but leaves workers exposed to something economists call longevity risk, the possibility of outliving your savings. Now, here's where the analysis gets particularly interesting, and where the feedback loop into financial markets begins. Pension funds are among the largest institutional investors in the world. A significant portion of global equity markets is owned directly or indirectly by retirement savings. In the United States, retirement assets represent roughly $35 to $40 trillion, a substantial share of total market capitalization. For most of the post-war period, this created a powerful tailwind for stock markets. As the baby boomer generation, the largest demographic cohort in history, moved through their peak earning years of their 40s and 50s, they saved aggressively. That money flowed into equities, driving valuations higher. But there's a problem. Economists call it the Asset Meltdown Hypothesis. The theory, most associated with researchers like Robert Arnott and Ann Cassells, is straightforward. As populations age, retirees shift from accumulation to decumulation. They stop buying assets and start selling them to fund their retirement. If a large enough cohort begins liquidating its holdings simultaneously, you could see sustained downward pressure on asset prices. The demand that supported decades of rising valuations simply recedes. Now, markets are global, and capital from younger economies, particularly in Asia and Africa, may partially offset this dynamic, but those capital flows are not guaranteed, and they are not perfectly substitutable for domestic institutional demand. There's a secondary effect worth noting as well. As pension funds face growing liabilities and seek higher returns to close their funding gaps, they are increasingly pushed into riskier asset classes: private equity, infrastructure, alternative investment. This shifts risk throughout the financial system in ways that are difficult to price accurately, creating potential vulnerabilities that only become visible in a downturn. Governments have not been entirely passive in the face of these trends, but the solutions on offer range from the merely insufficient to the politically untenable. The most common response has been to raise the retirement age. France, Germany, the UK, and the US have all made adjustments, though these have frequently been met with significant public resistance, most memorably in France, where pension reform triggered some of the most disruptive civil unrest in recent memory. Others have moved toward automatic stabilizers, mechanisms that link pension benefits to life expectancy, so that as people live longer, the system automatically adjusts, either by reducing benefits, extending working years, or both. Sweden and the Netherlands have been leaders in this approach. A third lever is simply to increase contributions, higher taxes on workers and employers to fund larger liabilities. But this carries its own economic consequences, particularly in already high-tax environments where labor competitiveness is a concern. What is largely absent from public discourse is an honest reckoning with the arithmetic. Pension systems are, at their core, intergenerational transfer mechanisms. Someone has to pay for retirement, either through prior savings or through the taxes of those currently working. As lifespans extend and birth rates fall, the mathematics of that transfer become progressively harder to resolve without someone accepting a worse outcome than they were promised. The longevity dividend, that extraordinary achievement of modern medicine and public health, is one of humanity's genuine triumphs. More years of life for more people in better health. This is worth celebrating, but economics rarely deals in pure goods. Every structural change creates winners and losers, pressures and adaptations. And the pressure that rising life expectancy is placing on retirement systems, public finances, and capital markets is real, measurable, and in many countries already manifesting. The honest assessment is this: pension systems designed for a world where most people died shortly after retirement are not equipped for a world where retirement could last 25 or 30 years. The funding gaps are large. the political will to close them honestly is, in most places, limited, and the feedback effects on financial markets through asset decumulation, yield seeking, and demographic headwinds are only beginning to be fully priced in. What happens next depends on choices that most governments are still avoiding, and that, perhaps more than anything, is the most concerning part of the story. If you found this video useful, the channel is supported by viewers like you.